at the enactment of the Congressional Budget Act in 1974, which set this process in motion, they were trying to put in place a procedural approach that allowed Congress more or less to get itself organized for budgetary decisions, some of which are difficult and always involve some level of controversy, to get Congress organized so that it could be on a level playing field, kind of, with the presidency, who the president, of course, proposes a president's budget every year. So in a sense, they were trying to say, let's figure out a way for Congress to be organized and not just kind of mired all the time in its own debates, to produce its own version of a budget, which it then could implement through reconciliation. So they put time limits on debate, not so much to turbocharge partisanship, but to allow the Congress to work its will collectively and produce an alternative budget framework to what the president proposed. That's kind of how it worked, by the way, for 2 decades, okay? But then it became clear, and maybe they should have understood this would happen eventually, that the parties started to say, well, wait a second, if we control the White House and the House and Senate, one great thing about this reconciliation bill is we might be able to pass the kind of changes we want that don't have to water it down with compromises with the other party. And so the first partisan reconciliation bill passed and became law in 1993. And it's ever since then, there's been a series of elevations of the kind of use of it toward partisan ends. And it's kind of seeped also into the electoral and political process, where the parties all think to themselves, both of them think to themselves, hey, we're pretty close. If we just win the next election, or we do well in the next 2 elections, we might get a shot at running a big reconciliation bill that kind of does everything we've been have ambitions to do, and the other side can't stop us. So it's become a pretty strong partisan process. In fact, it almost is not used anymore for bipartisan processes. And so it's very different from how those who wrote it thought it would play out.